Multifamily Mindset
podcast. Think bigger.
Welcome to the Multifamily Mindset Podcast. I'm your host today, Zach Rucker, and I am super stoked for this conversation we're about to have with our guests. It's going to bring something new to this podcast that most of you here listen to, all these stories, and we're going to dive into a story today that's a little unique and a different perspective than our typical multifamily discussion. We're going to dive into senior living. So with our guest is Roberto Carabetta, and let's just dive in. Roberto, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on and have this conversation with me and provide this value to our listeners.
Yeah, big thank you to you, Zach, for inviting me here. Honored to be here. This one is going to be special, right? Because the audiences that we have, it's going to tie in nicely. I'm excited for this one and to tell everyone my message. It's a good one.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So a little backstory: you actually met our podcast producer Will at Peak Partnership this year, and that's how this kind of came together in this discussion. So I was just super excited, grateful for Will too, and you guys meeting, you coming to Peak this year. And so with that, let's give the listeners some background. I know no one really knows who's Roberto unless they found you on another podcast. So give a backstory of who are you? How'd you even, what's your story of getting into multifamily or into real estate in general? And how you kind of came, your story here.
Yeah. Well, in a nutshell, I call myself the senior living king.
Okay.
I want to get a lot of senior living facilities under my belt in the next handful of years. So that's what you guys are going to know me as, the senior living king.
I love it. Love it.
But the journey obviously started years and years ago. So I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. I'm now living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I moved down here 2 years ago. But the investment kind of mentality and the real estate niche all started at around age 18 or 19. I was working at one of the local banks in Toronto area, and I was a teller. And I noticed customers come in with high net worth, and I noticed customers come in with like a check. Back then they had check deposits. And obviously I see on the screen on my side their accounts, and I see they have all this money and they're doing good, they're doing well. And every month they're coming in consistently. So I started to get to know them, the higher net worth clients. And then I started piecing the pieces of the puzzle together. I'm like, what do they do that I'm not doing? And the common denominator that I found out is they all have real estate attached to them. They were landlords, they were developers, they were in the construction industry, real estate agents, whatever they were. They all had real estate attached to them. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm 18, 19 at this time. If these 30, 40-year-olds, whatever they were at that time, can do it, why can't I? Why can't I do it? Like, let's go. Let's dive deeper. So doing my little research, whatever, I went to downtown Toronto to look at an investment property. It was my second kind of showroom that I've been to my whole life. I got the itch, I got the buzz, and I signed on the dotted line right there and then, without telling my parents, without advisors, without nothing. I'm like, these guys are doing it up top. I want to be in the game.
Wow.
So I bought my first real estate property at age 20. Once you sign on the dotted line, it's game time.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, now what do I do? Back then it was, I think, like $20,000 down payment. So it wasn't much, but still 18, 19-year-old. At that time, actually, when I signed, I was 20. But how do you come up with $20,000? So I pulled out line of credits, credit cards, a little bit of savings, worked a little bit harder. So I finally got my first real estate investment deal. And that just gave me the itch to get more. So after my first one, I said to myself, I want 7 by the age of 30, right? I'm like, this is I got to get some goals in here. So I didn't get 7 by the age of 30. I got 5. The other 2 I got before age of 35. So 7 before age of 35. It was a good goal. I had kids in the meantime and got married. So no excuses, but that delayed some of the years.
Oh yeah.
These were all on my own. The last couple were with my wife. They weren't syndications. They were just me getting money from the bank, me putting the deposits. And the first one appreciates, use the Burr method. So appreciates, take equity out, buy the second one. Two appreciate, take money out, buy the third one, so on and so on. So out of the 7 properties that I had before age 35, I really put in $50,000 maybe all in out of across all 7 because I just kept borrowing and refinancing. So that was my strategy, I guess, as far as it could take me. Right. And
Yeah.
then in Canada, I hit a roadblock because the major banks over there don't give a personal entity more than 5 loans on rental properties.
Mm.
So I was capped. I went to B lenders for the other couple properties that I had. I had a maximum of 10 before the age of 40, but I was getting maxed out. Things work for a reason, right? They work out. 2 years ago, I said I moved down to Fort Lauderdale, and it opened up a whole new window for me, a whole new opportunity. I wanted to buy real estate. I wanted to stay in the game, but I knew I didn't want to buy single family. I wanted bigger and better and scalability. So that's when I started learning about multifamily, commercial real estate. So 2 years ago, I got into a program that educated me in how to purchase multifamily real estate. Got my first multifamily property 3 months later, and kind of never looked back, right? I don't have a W-2 job. I'm doing this full time. I look at deals, I underwrite deals all day, every day, call brokers, talk to brokers. So that was my gig is let's accumulate multifamily. A couple months later, a senior living facility deal comes across my desk. I'm like, what is this? Like the returns were like it was a 3x return.
Wow.
I'm like, this doesn't make sense, right? Like in multifamily, we see a 2x, a 2.2, 2.5, which is good, like nothing
Yeah,
wrong.
that's great. Yeah.
When
Hmm.
when a 3.5x comes across your desk, you start double like questioning yourself, like, how is this true?
Hmm.
So I took the underwriting that someone gave me. I spent a couple weeks researching senior living because I knew nothing about it. I didn't even know you can syndicate senior living. I thought it was just for institutional guys. So all my research I did in that 2 week crunch, I couldn't poke holes in the underwriting. I got it from like a 3.5 to a 3.2. I'm like, still great returns. So since that day was about 18 months ago, it was early on in 2024. I'm like, since then, I'm all in on senior living. So I've accumulated 6 properties in that time frame of senior living facilities.
Wow.
I have another 5 under contract right now, set to close by the end of the year. And I'm always looking for opportunities. Like next year, I got bigger goals. The year after, I got bigger goals. So I really, truly believe in this sector of the senior living space because of the opportunity it presents, right? Opportunity for investors, for operators, and for the families and residents that live in these facilities.
Yeah.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell and how I got from a 20-year-old working at a bank to a 44-year-old buying $15 million properties.
Yeah.
So
No, I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
And there's so much to unpack there. So
yeah,
we'll kind of backtrack a little bit with that of, you know, you kind of follow the journey of I feel like a lot of people and a lot of our listeners, right? You notice real estate is the way to go, and everyone it's default single family. Let's buy a single family home that's easy to digest, to understand, comprehend. Okay, let's do that. And just buy another one. But then yeah, you hit that roadblock, and I know a lot of our listeners hit that roadblock of I can't really do much more. Um, but I want to do more. And then they come in and they find multifamily. And it's probably a similar thing. Yeah, you joined a mentorship program and learned how to do multifamily, how to analyze deals, how to find them. It's a very similar environment to multifamily mindset and what we're teaching. And you took that and you just dove all in. And um, from there it's just continuing to dive deeper and follow that. But the cool thing was, an opportunity came across your desk that wasn't multifamily, and um, you kind of dove in to learn about it. It wasn't necessarily, I find a lot of people find shiny objects, right? The RV parks, storage facilities, mobile home parks, all these different avenues, and they start looking at all these different deals. but they still haven't yet to like move forward with, at least multifamily, and then they get stuck in that. So, was that a case at all where you were seeing these different avenues like RV parks, mobile homes, and you're kind of getting stretched, or what kind of even drew you more into that senior living of like really diving into that? Like, what was that opportunity that kind of came across your desk? Um, that you kind of you're like, okay, I'm going to dive into this further.
Yeah. So when I first got into multifamily at the start in commercial real estate, I knew I couldn't chase that shiny object, right? I knew I only had to focus on multifamily. It's similar to single family, like a house, a tenant. It's very similar, right? It's
Hmm.
not your retail or industrial, that it's a little bit different and I'm not familiar with. So I knew I
Hmm.
wanted to go down the path of just multifamily. I didn't think of senior living, like I said before, but I knew I'm the type of guy who kind of stays more or less in one lane until I kind of master it or get comfortable or get tired of it and chase something else. So I was down that path. I have a few multifamily assets under management, and it, it's just how the world turns. Is this one deal? It came from one of my multifamily partners. He says, "Hey,
Okay.
take a look at this. I got it from another partner," and so on. So once I saw the underwriting and the opportunity on this senior living facility, it caught my attention because of the returns. So then it forced me to dive deeper. Then when I started diving deeper, I was a believer in the opportunity. I saw that there's a supply issue and there's a huge demand. So just for basic economics, high demand, low supply equals opportunity.
Hmm.
So just on those metrics, I wanted to dive in deeper. Then you start reading the data, and you sign up for newsletters and you do your research. And 99% of the points of this sector were in favor of let me go down this road. Let me take this pathway. And till this day, just under 2 years I've been in this sector. There's no reason for me not to like it. Every day gets better and better. And we'll talk about the deals that I'm buying, but they're like pennies on the dollar that are out there right now. So even on a real estate play, there's a huge, I guess, upside, you can say, like a future outlook. Then you take that business senior living space, huge potential, huge upside in the next 4, 5, 10 years. So it's not that I didn't go down a path that I didn't like. I The further down the rabbit hole I went, the more I liked it.
Mm.
Well, I think in my mind and my body is I need to be here because this is the place that I really like to be. I see huge opportunity.
Mm. Okay, I love that. And
Yeah.
so, how like let's talk about that first kind of senior living deal that you did become a part of. What how did that look? What was your role in that? And then we're gonna dive into, I'd love to dive in for our listeners of just what's the difference with senior living and multifamily, because there's a big difference. There's a lot of similarities, but
Yeah.
there is a big piece to it that I think, I want to make sure like our listeners are educated in that. And because I've gone down this started going down this rabbit hole, I got people pushing deals my way of, hey, you should get into this. We got partners that are getting into a memory care facility, and they're like, hey, like you should really consider these. uh and so I know it's heavy on my mind, so I'm super excited about this conversation because um you know yeah, we're closing deals, like we're closing multifamily deals, we're doing great. But there's always that part of me that's, what's something else that we could help just diversify our investors, but we could also, just do really well in. Right. So let's dive into like that first deal. Like, how
Yeah.
did you get involved and what did that look like?
Yeah. So my first multifamily deals, I came on the team, on the general partner team, providing EMD and risk capital
Mm.
and using my general contracting background. I was a general contractor for 20 years in Toronto, using my general contracting background to project manage the CapEx kind
Mm.
of renovations, budgeting, scheduling, stuff like that. So that was my superpower at the beginning to get on these teams, like EMD provider and project manager for CapEx. So that EMD option is why my partner threw me the senior living deal. Hey, do you want an EMD on this deal?
Okay. Okay.
right?
Let's break that down real quick for our listeners. Like EMD, that's that that's that risk capital, the earnest money deposit, right? Right. That's that risk capital you're
Correct.
putting up front.
Yeah.
Once you go into contract, hey, we're going to put in, $100,000 for EMD. And then once due diligence hits, or even before that, once due diligence period ends, that's hard. If
Yeah.
you don't close on the deal, you lose that. The seller takes that, and you lose it, right? So there's a lot of risk to that. So our listeners understand like that's an important role, and it is actually a role within getting involved on a deal that I think some people kind of overlook. But I'm sure there's a lot of risk that you had by
Uh,
by doing that, right?
yeah. I'll talk about it because I think it's very important to understand the risk of the earnest money deposit and risk capital. Because people think, oh, it's easy. Give them $100,000 and I get a GP position. Let's talk about the risk for a second, but it could be a whole nother episode on EMD.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I learned a lot. And so I'm a private money lender on the side
Mm,
before I got into commercial real estate. So I liked that risk appetite of
okay.
providing EMD. The caveat I would say to listeners is EMD is not secured against anything because the buyers, the general partner team, doesn't own the asset yet. So you're putting that $100,000 deposit down. Yeah, it's not hard for that 30, 60-day due diligence period, but hey, it might go hard on day 60 or day 90. You're not getting it back. Then if you don't close a deal, if you don't go get lending, if you don't raise the necessary capital, or if the team backs out, you lost that $100,000. There's no going to the courts. Hey, I've secured against this asset, this house, this collateral. It's gone. It's in the contract. It's gone. So there's a huge risk component. So you have to understand who the operators are, who the capital raisers are. You have to understand that market before you actually start thinking about providing EMD to other teams. But no risk, no reward, and you'll find out when I talk about senior living, there's a risk component to senior living also, right? It's not straightforward as multifamily. In senior living, you're buying real estate, but you're also buying a business. So you're buying a business within the real estate facility. So there's huge risks when buying a business. You have staffing, you have insurance. In senior living, you have food, you have healthcare, you have medication, you have regulations. So huge risk. But again, no risk, no reward. As long as listeners who want to dive deeper into this sector understand the risks and they're okay with potentially not making that return that is showed on their underwriting, right?
Hmm.
So to talk about the first deal is I got on that first senior living deal as an earnest money deposit, but I promoted myself to the team as, hey, give me the due diligence files. I want to go through them. I'll help you with it. I want to step up my game. I want to learn, get me involved. So I
Mm.
went through all the due diligence files. And let me tell you, it is triple the amount of multifamily because now
Oh,
you got all
wow.
these regulation files and all the food cost and the labor and the insurance and the WSIB, the workers' comp. It's it's crazy how many pieces of paper you have to go through. But in turn, I learned a whole lot on how the operations are worked, right? How you actually run a facility. So I got myself on the team as an EMD provider, helped out with the due diligence, and also part of the asset management team. So I'm all in on this deal. It's my first senior living deal. I'm all in. I'm committing every minute that I have to make this deal successful. That knowledge gave me the resume to go tackle more deals and provide more to other teams. Now, my last 5 deals that I have under contract are my deals that I found and built a team around me
Wow.
because I've built up that education and that resume and that willingness to learn about this sector. So now with this team that I've created, we can go tackle more deals at a faster rate, right? Because everyone knows
Hmm.
their roles and everyone understands their game that they're playing,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? So it all started from a small EMD position.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's what like our listeners should understand too, is like it starts as such a small role, like when you to get in, right? But then I love your perspective of, hey, give me the due diligence documents. Like, let me just go to work and figure this out and provide some value.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other people that was probably reviewing it too, but you're like, let me see if I can help provide some value here and go through these documents, even though that's a lot of new documents. You don't even know what you're looking at, probably initially, and you just got to figure it out. So I mean, that's huge props to you of just give me the work, even though it could be, working for free,
Yeah.
but it's because it's going to turn into a few deals down the road. Now you're the one kind of leading, putting the teams together, and you understand the process, right? I think that's huge. So let's dive into that aspect of, I mean, there's a lot of avenues I want to go. I want to know, like, how do you find your deals? What markets you go in? But I want to stay into like the operations of it. 'Cause I'm really, I want to point that, like, highlight that piece out of the difference of how a senior facility operates and the importance of understanding that and having a really good operator in place. It's not like multifamily where you're getting a property management company and then, say a couple years go into it, the property management company is not doing super well and you got to switch to new property management. That's not necessarily the case in senior living, because you got all these employees that you got to be, working with, and you got the regulations so dive into that a little bit for our listeners so they can really understand, can grasp, like, it's a different business model when you get into it.
Yeah. Senior living is operations heavy. You need to have the right operator in place to run that business, to run that facility. I would argue that operations is the most important part or piece of the puzzle. So when I'm looking at markets, I'm building relationships with operators before I'm entering the market or before I'm purchasing something in that market. I can't go to Savannah, Georgia and purchase an assisted living facility without knowing an operator is in that area and I feel comfortable with that operator. It's not like multifamily, you just kind of find a local property management company. This is a whole different structure, right? You need the operator to be the leader of the team, and the operations is what brings the residents in, what increases the rents, what keeps the expenses stabilized, and in turn keeps the NOI at a higher level, and in return rewards the investors with your promised returns from the underwriting. So operations is extremely key. The multifamily side you touched on, you have a property management company. They show up to the office, the leasing office, from whatever, 9 to 5. They have a little marketing campaign that they try to find tenants. They're not really doing much. I'm not knocking them, but their job is to stay in the leasing office, wait for someone to walk in, do some Facebook ads, look on these websites that they have, apartments.com, and find tenants. That's about it. 5 o'clock, they leave, they're good. Senior living is a 24-hour, 7-day a week operations. Christmas, Easter, New Year's, Hanukkah, whatever. Someone has to be there. And it's not just one person has to be there. Because of regulations, you need, for example, 3 staff members on the floor each minute of the day, morning, afternoon, and night. So now you have a whole staffing issue that you got to play with a piece of the puzzle. So if the operation team is doing a poor job and the general partners is not happy, do you think it's easy to just give them a 30-day notice and say, hey, Mr. Operations, you're out. I'm going to show up tomorrow and operate this facility? There's no chance. A, I'm not licensed to do so. And B, I've never done it before. So how am I going to operate this 20, 30 staff facility with food trucks coming in and medication carts and alarms and people that need bathing and help with food? I'm not doing that. That's not my game. My game is to purchase the facilities and run the business. So in the multifamily space, you get rid of a property management company. Sure, you and I can step in for a couple of days while we figure it out. It's not labor intensive, right? You just put your mind to it and go work and go hustle for new tenants. So operations in senior living is the most important piece of the puzzle. So without a good operator, your business plan fails right out of the gate. So it's very different than multifamily.
Yeah. And so, yeah, building those relationships with those operators and finding a good one. I mean, it's huge because yeah, that's who's running the business, uh, and keeping the employees there, and all that. Yeah, it's a totally different kind of game there, and that's really the risk factor there. A lot of expenses. So how does that actually? How does the expense ratio kind of look from a uh, senior living compared to multifamily? We're around that 50, anywhere from 40 to 60% kind of operations. What's that look like senior living? Is it different, or is it still in that with rents being higher because it's all the care that goes into it? And what's that look like?
Yeah. The industry standard expense ratio for senior living or assisted living, I should say, is in and around 70% expense ratio.
Wow.
Some facilities we're buying because they're mismanaged or poorly managed or under market rents, we're buying them at like 85% expense ratio. So we
Wow.
have to strategically have an excellent business plan and operations in place to either cut expenses or increase income, right? To get that ratio to that 70% mark where the industry standard should be, right? 72% is fair because you have high food costs, high staffing costs, insurance is high. Yes, your rent is high. You can get $4, 5, $6,000 in rent, but your expenses is high. So
Mhm.
that's where you're playing with that 70% expense ratio. It's just the nature of the business, right?
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of overhead in assisted living and in senior living.
Yeah. Which I mean, that's with such high expenses that just narrows your your delta or your risk, or room to make adjustments. You do have to be very efficient with making those adjustments,
Yeah.
because yeah, you lose occupancy, for example. Yeah, it doesn't
Well,
take much to those expenses to now hit up to towards the 90+% expense ratio if you're not managing that correctly, and
yeah.
making sure the income's coming in.
So think about this. Multifamily, the tenants sign a 1 year lease. So technically you're guaranteed that money for 1 year, right?
Mhm.
Whether they renew or not, that's a business situation. In assisted living, think about it this way. Legally, they have to sign a 1 year lease as an agreement, right? After 1 year, it's essentially month to month.
Mm.
But within that 1 year, God forbid if they expire, if they pass on in month six, they're not obligated to pay the back 6 months. They only pay for what they've stayed. So in one of our facilities, we had whatever 85% occupancy. Things were good. We're making money. It's good. In 1 month, we had 4 deaths.
Mm.
On a 56 bed facility, you take away 4 residents in 1 month. That's a huge drop in occupancy. But you're staffed to run at 85% occupancy. Now all of a sudden you're at whatever it is, 78, 80%. You can't just let go of staff and then rehire them when you find 4 more residents. So you got to weather the storm with the staffing. You probably have a food truck that's coming in next week that you already accounted for those 4 residents. So it's a fine balance that you have to play and have to juggle with. You have to understand that you're going to go through highs and lows. You might lose 4 residents. You might gain 4 and not lose any, right? It might spike. You might have to hire a staff in an urgent manner. So there's a lot of, it all boils down to the operator. So there's a lot of operational intelligence that you need to have when managing these facilities. So to my point earlier, you and I can't just step in and deal with this chaos. Like
Mhm.
these have to be experienced, show me your resume, show me your track record operators that have done this before. It
Mhm.
can't be the guy that's opened up a company 1 or 2 years ago. Like he has to be reputable in that market to understand the ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
no one's paying you those extra months that after they passed, right? They're gone. Let's go find another resident.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense. So what's like the break even occupancy when it comes into that? Because you're like, right, you're staffed at 85% occupancy. Like, what's your break even with expenses being so high? What are you kind of shooting for of occupancy? Like multifamily, we're shooting for 90, 95% plus. but is that different in this space?
So the rule in the industry is around 82, 85% occupancy, you're considered fully staffed.
Okay.
So if we're hitting that 85% occupancy, anything above that is kind of cherry on top, right? It essentially all hits the bottom line because your care levels are not increasing. You don't have to hire, because of how the ratios work out, you don't necessarily have to hire an additional staff member for every resident that comes in,
Okay.
as if that makes sense, right? Each
Yeah.
it's facility dependent, but each staff member can take care of 4 to 8 residents, right? So if you're getting
Mhm.
2 more residents, you don't need to hire additional staff, right? You should kind of have a floater going around anyways. So 85% occupancy is considered fully staffed. But to my point before, once you drop below that, you can't necessarily let go of staff. You
Mhm.
can, but once you get back to 85, you're not going to find that staff member coming back.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it definitely makes it tricky there.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, let's talking about staffing and size. Like, what's the typical size? You're right. Multifamily, we kind of push 100 plus units because of the scale. With property management companies, 100 plus is best. But with that and the staffing on this assisted facilities, what's the size of these properties? Are they 100 beds, 100 rooms, or are they a lot smaller to help kind of manage the business within that?
Yeah. So my target is 50 to 75 beds. So in senior living, they go beds and units because some units can be doubled up. But I look at anywhere between 50 to 75 beds because I was forced to look at that bracket or that range because my relationships with the operators. So my decision making is heavily weighted on the operator's ability. So if I'm chasing that 100 or 120 bed facility, now I got to start looking at the national operators. And national operators are a little bit different to deal with. They don't look at small guys like me as a key partner. So they kind of push me to the bottom. They're going to do business with the larger players, the institutional guys, right? So now
Hmm.
that forced me to drop down below the 100 bed mark. So 50 to 75, you find that medium sized operator that is hungry to grow. Maybe he has 10 facilities he's operating. He wants to grow to 11, 12, 13, and so on. You find that medium sized operator and that he fits in my buy box. So I was forced to look at that buy box based on the operator,
Okay.
right? And the price points are excellent because the institutional guys aren't looking at that buy box. The smaller residential home care investors are not looking at that buy box. So there's a big gap between, call it even 20 bed and 70 bed facilities. There's a big gap of investors, like
Mm.
syndicators like myself.
Yeah.
There is also less operators in that space, but once you find
Mhm.
that operator, there's a huge opportunity to tackle some deals.
Yeah. So let's talk about like the price point. You brought up pricing. So what does a price look like when you're looking at these senior facilities from like a per bed, per unit standpoint?
I'm gonna blow your mind because no one's gonna believe me when I say this. Even my insurance company doesn't believe me. So right away, on my quick underwriting, like you throw me a deal, I'll know in 5 seconds whether I'm gonna move forward or not. I look at facilities that are priced at $100,000 or lower per bed. So our last facility we closed on was $58,000 a bed. These 5 facilities that we're looking at is average, call it $75,000 a bed. So I want that price point per bed to be under $100,000
Hmm.
because the huge upside. To build a new facility, new development, it costs developers about $300,000 to build a unit, like a $300,000 per bed to build a facility. So right away, just economics in general, I'm at 100,000, a new facility is at 300,000. Hey, if I sell this thing in 5 years, it has to be worth 200, 220,000. Like
Yeah.
like it's a no-brainer. So I'm looking for elderly, tired owners that have owned these facilities for 20 years.
Mm.
They may be seniors themselves. They just went through COVID. They got rocked. That whole industry got rocked during COVID. They couldn't sell at the bottom because it was worth nothing. Now they're stabilized to the level that they're happy with. And I'm picking them up at a really cheap discount from really market value, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
they just want out. I'm targeting these tired owners that just want out. They're happy with, call it 2 million for 50 beds, 3 million for 75 beds, whatever that number is. They're happy because chances are they have no debt. They've owned it for 20 years. They've made excellent cash flow for 15 of those years. So they just want out of the industry. They don't really care about $1 million extra, $2 million extra. They just want to out. So then
Hmm.
I jump on that opportunity, and one of the facilities I got seller financing for 50%,
Wow. Yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
And they're getting their little, you know what I mean, monthly distribution. So they're happy. They save on their taxes. So it's all structuring it in a strategic way, but knowing what sellers you're going after,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's where I can get that lower price point.
Okay. Um, so with these senior facilities, I know it's like the demand is picking up, so I'm sure there's a lot more development going on in this. I mean, we're seeing a housing shortage just in multifamily, right? Or just housing in general across the US that we just have a shortage, continually have a shortage here that we just can't keep up with the demand. How does that look in the senior space now? Because I know the demand's picking up and is going to keep picking up here really quickly with the boomers, right? Aging population. Um, Tell me a little bit about how that is there risks that you see with developers coming in and maybe oversupply, or is there still we're just in a super lag here on the supply part?
Yeah, it is astonishing that there is not enough supply coming on the market. So as of today, with the baby boomer generation coming up, that biggest generation turning 65 years and older in our lifetime, as of today, with the numbers we are today, not including in 5 years, as of today, with the age, the amount of population that is 65 today, there's a $2 billion shortage in new development, meaning they have to inject $2 billion today in new development to catch up to the demand that we have today. Zach, that's crazy.
That's
To me,
crazy.
that's crazy. So
That's
imagine how
crazy.
it's going to be in 3, 4 years, because we both know new development doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't
Hmm.
even happen in 1 or 2 years. Once they get permitting, once they put shovel in the ground, once they complete the facility, it's going to take 3 years. So we're at $2 billion deficit in new startups, new construction as of today. That number is
Wow.
just going to grow,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? So I'm not worried about new development catching up. And even if they do catch up, which they won't, but even if they do, those are going to be A-class facilities. In the economic situation that we're heading to, A, how many seniors can afford A-class facilities? B, do they really need an A-class facility? Think about that senior that just wants a sense of belonging. They need help. They want to be in a community with other people their age. They don't want to be home alone if they're widowed. They don't care about the marble floors and the fancy bathrooms and the crown molding. They rather pay $2,000 less a month and be in a facility that obviously looks nice, but has a high care level. So our strategy as an operations team is provide the best care possible and the cleanest workspace possible, or sorry, cleanest living space possible.
Mm.
It has to do with care level. They're coming to us for care, not for a fancy place to live.
Yeah.
So even if these facilities come on board, these new development facilities, I'm honestly not worried about it. It doesn't fit my buy box or my business strategy. So
Yeah.
I think we have 15, 20 years of opportunity here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm really
Yeah.
stoked about this sector. Like, if people haven't researched it as much as I have, like I've spent hundreds of hours, they can't get excited because they don't really know. So I want to tell them my excitement and the opportunities. Like it's almost unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and all my questions have been geared toward. I've been kind of selfishly for myself, right? Is to understand this more because I feel that energy, and it's definitely convincing me and pulling me more and more that sector. for sure, because I definitely see that demand. And it's just you get weary because you just don't know what you don't know,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
And so
which
as
is
you dive in
natural.
further, as you dive in and learn more about people like yourself actually operating these properties, you understand the risks and then what you need to take, the steps you need to take from those that are experienced in front of you. Um, oh, I had another question with just the aspect that you mentioned. You're not worried about the quality of essentially the renovations that you're doing, right? It's not super high end quality. We're not renovating for the millennials or the Gen Z, taste in apartments. It's the baby boomers. They're old style, like they're good with that. And so I think that definitely helps paint a good picture of we're not coming in and doing the normal multifamily aspect of we're renovating these units. We're putting in, Jaeger cabinets and new appliances and new flooring. Like we're coming in and we're just like the goal that you have is let's create a clean facility, but the care is also really important that we're providing good care. And that just comes back to the operator.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about the money you're putting in for the CapEx piece. It really matters what the time and effort you're putting in to the finding the operator and the energy you're putting into that to make sure it's operating correctly.
Yeah. So we are still looking for a value add play
Hmm.
similar to the multifamily value add, but our value comes from finding low rents because that tired owner or that older owner is only charging where $3,000 a month because that's what they've known for 5 years, right? They
Hmm.
don't know they can charge 4,000. So we're looking for that huge increase in rent from 3,000 to possibly 4,000. So that's one value add play. But another value add play is not changing or renovating the rooms because think about the resident's room in assisted living. It's 200, 300 square feet. They have a they bring their own bed, so it's the floor, the walls, the bathroom. Maybe some facilities have a little kitchenette like a bar fridge and a countertop. But changing the floor cost $1,500, painting the room cost a couple $100. So our capex for the room, the budget there is not all that great. Call
Hmm.
it $2,000 a room, right? It's not, and it doesn't have to be high end qualities. There's no cabinetry. We're not changing the shower or the bathtub or anything in the bathroom, just giving it a fresh look, right? So the CapEx budget is lower than multifamily, but where we focus on is the main areas, especially the common area where families first enter. So picture, usually it's the family, like the son or the daughter that's touring the facility on behalf of their mother or their father. So when that son or daughter first walks into the facility, we want that foyer common area to look presentable, clean,
Yeah.
updated, nice, whatever that attraction is to that family. We want that wow factor to be that first impression.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're going to look
Yeah.
at the rooms along the tour, but that wow factor that hey, I see my mother sitting on that couch watching TV, playing cards at this desk. They envision what their loved one's day-to-day life is going to look like,
Hmm.
right? So we concentrate on changing the flooring in the common areas, fresh coat of paint, maybe new pictures and wall paintings, fresh like lighting, like brighter lighting, LED lighting. But in room, it's really not that much. It's all the look of the common areas and I guess the landscaping outside, like nice potteries, nice
Hmm.
bright flowers, and nice signage, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where they're going to spend a lot of their time is in that common areas, and so that's a
Yeah,
big piece. Yeah, we're
yeah,
closing a 55 plus community, and it used to be senior housing or assisted living. So you got the common areas, and so that's where a big part of our budget, right, and focus is, hey, let's update these, and that's what's going to bring people in first off, but it's going to create that community aspect, and so I love that aspect of senior living. It's really big on community and bringing the community together not so much on the individual, resident
yeah,
units. And so I love that. Man, we could talk all day, and I'd love to pick your brain more. So, maybe we have to record another one of these.
yeah,
But I just love learning about this, and hopefully our listeners, I know they learned a lot coming into this. And so I'm going to kind of go into my last two questions I asked all of our guests, and that's our think bigger questions. So first one is, how do you choose to think bigger?
I'm thinking bigger because my vision is big.
Hmm.
I'm forced, I'm forcing myself to think bigger because I made a big vision and I have big goals. So if you want to reach that end game, that your vision, your big goal, you have to think bigger. You have to be a bigger version of yourself now to reach those big goals. Like I want 4,000 units in 5 years. I can't sit on my hands and not think big today.
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm thinking bigger because my vision's big.
no, I love that. I love that. Second question, how do you define success?
I, I can go different ways on this.
Yeah.
Being with my family, I have a wife and two kids. Being with my family at any moment in time that I want to be with them, having the businesses like the senior living facilities operate on their own. And when my name is known as a senior living king on that billboard, that's success.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're making that happen by thinking
Yeah.
bigger. Yeah.
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 You have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Last question. What is the best advice you can give a new multifamily or senior living investor, someone that's getting into this space, wanting to think bigger into this, commercial realm? What's your best advice to them?
When I was younger, starting off my career, I told you that I bought that first real estate property and then I bought 7 and 10 other properties along the way. I missed a piece that I was working with my father's company as a general contractor in my early 20s. And I eventually went on my own as a general contractor for the last 15 years before I moved down to Florida. And all that time, I thought I was doing good. I was learning a lot. And I was, but through my father's teachings, right? That's all I learned is through my father's teachings. So the advice I would give anyone thinking about investing as an LP or getting in the commercial real estate space for the Jeep general partners position is join a mastermind group. Learn from others who have done it. Because if you want to be that person who has 5,000 units, you need to learn from a person who's already bought 5,000 units, right? You have to pay to play or pay to be in the right rooms. So being associated with multifamily mindset, you're learning from people who have already done it. You have a sense of community. You can fall back and bounce ideas off each other, right? You have a group of X amount of people. So you can't do it alone and you can't learn on your own. So invest in yourself, join a mastermind group, and it'll get you to different levels than you've never dreamed of. And it works. I'm seeing the ramifications of my decision making. It works.
Yeah. It was just what, 2 years ago or yeah, 2 years ago that you joined
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
program, and now
Yeah.
you're at where you're at today,
Yeah.
and going at this full time, and got huge goals with it. So,
Yeah.
it's for our listeners, like you jump in, but commit to it, right? And we didn't even get through the mindset pieces of this, which I know you could bring a lot of gold to that part as well. But hopefully we just started that, and helped ignite some more fire in our
Yeah.
listeners of, it's possible.
Yeah.
It could take just a couple of years. Imagine what you can accomplish in just a couple of years time, um,
Yeah.
in getting there. So,
Yeah.
Robert, I'm so excited and appreciate your time today. I know we're going to have more discussions about this.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be picking your brain some more. But where can our listeners as well? Where can they connect with you and learn more about what you're doing as the senior living king?
I love it, man. It sounds good. Little
Yeah.
music to my ears. It sounds good. So I recently got, I guess, interested in social media. So follow me on Instagram. Roberto.carabetta is my Instagram handle. Search me up on Facebook. I'm all over there showing videos, posting stories, education pieces, my day-to-day life, my family life, my work life. I want my name to be out there. Come support me. I'll support you. Roberto.carabetta. I want to leave you on 3 words that I live by and I think it's beneficial. be committed, be consistent, and be confident. Everything else falls into place.
Love that.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll end it there. Listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, like, share it, comment, and let us know. Give us a review. Give us some feedback on this. If you want to see Roberto come back and us discuss even more, let us know. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
Multifamily Mindset. Podcast. Think bigger.